$36 billion. That's how much money the U.S. oil companies stand to get from taxpayers over the next 10 years. That's about $4 billion a year of your money. The good news? President Obama wants to fight to end those tax breaks. He says he wants to strike them from his next budget and hand the money back to you, me, and everyone else who pays taxes. That would be phenomenal. And yet, the Republicans will probably still say no. Over $36 billion for big oil, and the Republicans love it. What happened? I thought they were so worried about this deficit. This is a perfect opportunity to cut. President Obama has been trying to end these subsidies for 3 straight years now, and it's gotten voted down every time in Congress. Well, maybe that's because these poor oil companies need the tax breaks, right? Well, let's take a look at their bottom line and find out. In 2009, ExxonMobil pulled in almost $20 billion in profits. Chevron over $10 billion. ConocoPhillips nearly $5 billion. Why on God's green earth are we giving the most profitable companies in the world our taxpayer money? Again, conservatives and liberals should hate this. We should all unite on this. Now you want to know why they get the money anyway? For years, the industry has been one of the biggest lobbying forces in Washington, shelling out more than $110 million in 2010. Much of that money came straight from those 3 companies I just mentioned: ExxonMobil, Chevron, and ConocoPhillips. Lobbying also explains what might be the biggest travesty of all. In 2009, when ExxonMobil posted $20 billion in profits, it got back $156 million in federal taxes from the United States government, and Chevron got $19 million back. Look, this is exactly what's wrong with our system. Money goes into politicians' pockets, votes come out. The taxpayers lose, the lobbyists win. The politicians don't represent us, they represent the people who pay them. And in this case, it's the oil companies. And now I want to bring in former Pennsylvania Governor Ed Rendell. He's now an NBC News political analyst. Now, Governor Rendell, I'll ask you if I'm being too cynical, but what other reason is there to not pull back these subsidies from literally the world's richest companies?
There is no reason whatsoever. In fact, the truth is, Cenk, we should take away all subsidies to any energy company that's mature. To renewable energy companies that are growing and have a short lifespan, they need subsidies, they need tax credits, they need loan guarantees until they reach maturity, until they can compete economically, because we want them to grow. But it is a disgrace. You've cited Exxon figures, but ExxonMobil, I think their last quarter was the most successful quarter in the history of the world by any corporation, and that's obscene. And when you talk about $36 billion, taking that away, the average citizen may say, well, $36 billion, that's a lot of money. Well, it's less than 1% of what the oil companies will gain in revenue during that decade. 1%.
And accordingly, it might not matter much to them, but it matters to us. That's a lot of money for us. And I know the Republicans claim that they want to cut and the deficit. But sometimes it's bipartisan here. Why can't we get this through Congress?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. By the way, we didn't get it through Congress the first 2 years that President Obama was president because some Democrats voted to continue the subsidy. And what we've got to be clear, I think what the people have to be clear on is who's voting against our interest for these big companies that are making enormous profits. I mean, it should be a campaign issue. It should be a campaign issue in a Democratic primary. It should be a campaign issue in a general election. It should be a campaign issue, and it's a legitimate issue. These companies do not deserve tax subsidies. The idea that somehow removing the subsidies will hurt their growth, that's baloney. One of the gas companies, a gas company filed a report with the SEC where they said they expected 64% return on investment this year. Well, that's simply, obviously something that's off the charts. And we want them to make money. We want exploration. We want more drilling because we want American independence. We want our gas companies to be able to drill so we can produce our own form of energy. But they shouldn't get a subsidy.
Yeah, no question about that. Now, you mentioned using it as a campaign issue. So now the president has already put it up twice, has gotten defeated twice. He's putting it up a third time. Is the idea behind making it a campaign issue so that it creates pressure on the politicians to actually change their vote? Is that how you would actually get it done?
Sure. The one thing that politicians fear more than losing money, losing campaign contributions, is losing votes. But basically, they've been able to continue these subsidies with a sort of veil of anonymity around them. And it never gets framed as a particular issue. And if it was, what do you think if we polled right now? Let's say we went into any state in the union, red state, blue state, and polled, should ExxonMobil, that made the highest corporate profit in the history of the world in the last quarter, should it get taxpayers' subsidies? What do you think it would poll? It would probably poll 90% no, 7 or 8% yes.
Yeah, I think 7 or 8% would be high. Why would any average American want to pay money out of their own pocket to the most profitable company in the world? It doesn't make any sense. And so you're saying pressure. That's the only thing that works in this case. If you point that out, look, here's Republican X or maybe Democrat Y who is voting for this, that's going to make them change their vote.
We could have gotten rid of these subsidies when Democrats control both houses of the Congress and President Obama proposed it. So there are Democrats who voted to continue these subsidies as well. And, the subsidies are not necessary. They're not necessary. The only energy companies we should be subsidizing, let me repeat again, are the new ones, the new renewable alternative energy companies that need a little bit of time to grow, that need a little help for them to be in a position to produce a significant amount of production. Those companies we should be subsidizing with everything, loan guarantees, subsidies, making tax credits permanent, credits permanent so that Wall Street will have confidence in investing in them. But other than them, we shouldn't be subsidizing. The corner grocer doesn't get subsidized. The guy who sells sweatshirts doesn't get subsidized by the government. And neither should the mature energy companies.
Right. And by the way, the subsidies in the budget that the president announced last year was about $500 million for renewable energy companies, as opposed to $36.5 billion for the oil companies. So there's something wrong there. But Governor Rendell, thank you for your time tonight. I think you got it exactly right as to what the core problem is. Thank you.
Thanks, Cenk.